I audited 47 common daily behaviors that feel completely normal. And what I found will change how you see your own mind forever. You lock the door. Then you check it again. Then halfway to your car, you go back and check it a third time. You're not forgetful. You're not crazy. Your brain is running a 200,000-year-old threat detection program in a world it was never designed for. Here's the part nobody tells you. That low-level anxiety humming in your chest right now? That constant background noise of something feels off? That is not a personality flaw. That is ancient survival software misfiring in real time. And the scariest part of this entire audit? Most people never realize it's happening. They just think that's who they are. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why your nervous system behaves the way it does, and what it reveals about your brain that most people will never know about themselves. Stay with me, because what comes next explains everything. Let's go back, not to your childhood, further, way further. We're talking 200,000 BC, the African savanna. Your ancestors were not the biggest animals out there. They were not the fastest. They had no claws, no venom, no armor. What they had was a nervous system wired to detect threats before those threats detected them. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux identified this mechanism in the 1980s and called it the amygdala hijack. Here's what that means in plain language. Deep inside your brain sits a structure the size of an almond, the amygdala. Its entire job is one thing: scan for danger. And it is extraordinarily good at that job. In a study published in 1994 in the journal Psychological Science, researchers found that the human brain processes threatening images in as little as 14 milliseconds. That is faster than conscious thought, faster than you can blink. Your brain was scanning this room for danger before you even knew you walked into it. That system saved your ancestors' lives every single day. The problem? That same system is still running inside you right now, and nothing around you is trying to eat you. Now here is where it gets interesting and uncomfortable. For roughly 190,000 of those 200,000 years, the threats your brain was scanning for were real: a predator in the grass, a rival tribe over the hill, a storm on the horizon. The fear response was perfectly calibrated. You felt danger. You responded. The danger passed. Your nervous system reset. That reset is critical. It is called the stress response cycle, and researcher Emily Nagoski wrote about it extensively in her 2019 book, Burnout. The cycle has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Your ancestors completed that cycle constantly. They ran from the predator. They escaped. They physically shook, breathed hard, and their bodies discharged the stress hormones. Cycle complete. Reset. Then agriculture happened. Around 10,000 BC, humans stopped moving. They built settlements. The acute physical threats became less frequent. But the nervous system did not get the update. It never does. Evolution moves in hundreds of thousands of years. Culture moves in decades. And right now, in 2024, you are walking around with hardware that has not been updated since the Ice Age, trying to navigate traffic, email inboxes, and social media notifications. So what happens when a survival system designed for short, intense physical threats gets applied to long, chronic, invisible ones? This is where the audit gets dark. In 2017, the American Psychological Association published a landmark stress report. They found that 63% of Americans reported at least one significant symptom of stress. But here is the number that stopped me cold. Chronic stress, meaning stress that never fully resolves, affects the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking and decision-making. Here is what that means for you personally. When your amygdala fires repeatedly without resolution, it literally starts to shrink your capacity for clear thinking. Dr. Bruce McEwen at Rockefeller University spent decades documenting this. He called it allostatic load, the accumulated wear and tear of a nervous system that never gets to rest. You know that feeling where you are exhausted but cannot sleep? Where you are overwhelmed but cannot think straight? Where something feels wrong but you cannot name what it is? That is not weakness. That is allostatic overload. Your ancient threat detector is stuck in the on position, and it is slowly draining every other resource your brain has. Here is the moment everything changed in how scientists understood this. And it has everything to do with you checking your phone right now. In 2012, a team of researchers at UC Irvine, led by Dr. Gloria Mark, published a study on digital interruption. They found that after a single notification, one ping, one buzz, it takes an average of 23 minutes for the human brain to return to its original state of focus. 23 minutes from one notification. Now multiply that by the average person receiving 96 notifications per day, according to a 2019 Asurion report. Your brain is being hit with 96 micro-threat signals every single day. Each one triggers a tiny amygdala response. Is this important? Is this dangerous? Should I respond? Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a text from your boss and a rustle in the grass that might be a predator. The signal processing is identical. The physiological response is nearly identical. And because the notification never fully resolves, because there is always another one coming, the cycle never completes. The stress never discharges. The threat scanner never turns off. And you wonder why you feel exhausted by 2 p.m. for no clear reason. This brings us to right now, 2024, and the data is alarming. The World Health Organization reported in 2023 that anxiety disorders affect 301 million people globally, making it the most common mental health condition on the planet. But here is what most mental health coverage gets wrong. A significant portion of what we are calling anxiety is not a disorder. It is a feature. It is your survival system working exactly as designed, just wildly out of context. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk spent over 30 years studying trauma and the body's response to perceived threat. His conclusion, documented in his landmark 2014 book The Body Keeps the Score, is this: your body does not know the difference between a memory of danger and present danger. It does not know the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. It responds to both with the same full system alarm. That is why you can feel your heart rate spike while watching a movie. That is why a tone of voice from a stranger can ruin your entire afternoon. That is why you are replaying that conversation from 3 days ago at 1 a.m. Your threat scanner flagged it as unresolved, and it will not stop flagging it until the cycle completes. Now here is what I want you to think about, because this part of the audit surprised me the most. If this threat detection problem is getting worse, and all the data says it is, where does it go from here? In 2023, Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman discussed research showing that teenagers today have baseline cortisol levels equivalent to what adults in the 1980s experienced during acute crisis moments. Let that land. The background stress level that is now normal for a 16-year-old today would have been considered an emergency stress response 40 years ago. We are collectively calibrating upward. And here is what makes that trajectory dangerous. When your baseline threat level rises, your threshold for what triggers the alarm drops. Things that would not have registered as threats 5 years ago now set off a full nervous system response. You become hypervigilant. Hypervigilance feels like being careful, being smart, staying prepared. But neurologically, it is your amygdala consuming resources that were meant for creativity, connection, and clear thinking. The future version of this problem is a population increasingly unable to access the higher cognitive functions that make us uniquely human. Not because we are broken, but because our ancient software was never designed for this load. So what do you actually do with this? Because knowing your amygdala is misfiring does not automatically turn it off. And this is where the audit becomes personal. The research, and I mean the hard neuroscience, not the self-help shortcuts, points to 3 things that actually move the needle. First, complete the stress cycle. This is physical. Exercise, shaking, controlled breathing, even crying. These are not weakness. These are the biological discharge mechanism your ancestors used automatically. Dr. Peter Levine's somatic experiencing research shows that even 20 minutes of intentional physical movement can measurably lower amygdala reactivity within hours. Second, name the threat. Studies from UCLA in 2007, led by Dr. Matthew Lieberman, found that labeling an emotion, actually saying or writing the words "I feel afraid," reduces amygdala activity in real time. Your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala are in an inverse relationship. Activate one, you calm. Here is the thing I want you to carry with you after this video ends. That anxious hum in your chest is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that something is working inside you. Working hard, working constantly, working on your behalf, exactly as it was designed to. The problem was never you. The problem is that your ancient, brilliant, exhausted nervous system has been trying to protect you from a world that no longer exists. And the first step to changing that is knowing it is happening. If this hits something real for you, share it with someone you think is carrying invisible weight. Because the odds are, they are running the same software you are, and they just do not have a name for it yet. Drop a comment below. What is the one threat your brain keeps scanning for that you know logically is not really there? I read every single one. Subscribe if you want more of this. New video every week, and I will see you in the next one. Disclaimer. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing constitutes professional advice of any kind.